हम लोग लगा भी रहे थे ना, तो मतलब फॉर मी ड्रामा घर वाज लाइक माय फिल्म स्कूल. मतलब जो फिल्म बनाने के बाकी चीजें जो होती हैं वो मतलब मैंने साउंड के साथ और ये सब के साथ ऑफ वर्किंग विद द टीम एंड दैट
Yeah.
प्रोफेशनलिज्म, वो सब मतलब ड्रामा घर पे ही सीखा मैंने. व्हेन आई सॉ माय ओन फिल्म इन अ थिएटर आई रियलाइज हाउ इट
Yeah.
वर्क्स सो डिफरेंट.
Yeah.
शूट का तो मैंने कभी सोचा नहीं था ना, क्योंकि मैं तो शॉर्ट फिल्म बनाता था अपने, वो भी ऐसी यूट्यूब पे डाल दी. बट आनंद यूज्ड टू पॉइंट आउट कि यार दोस्त उसके हिसाब से सोचो, बड़े स्क्रीन के हिसाब से. एंड आई वाज लाइक हाँ यार ये तो बहुत बड़ा हो जाएगा वैसे. She had been working in London, she was studying in London, and now suddenly she's come to India, and not just India, she's like बिहार आ गई है सीधा. बिहार भी क्या, बिहार के गांव आ गई है, ठीक है. सो रिसोर्सेज तो है ही नहीं ना, मतलब which she is used to, ठीक है. तो पूरा ही जुगाड़ वे में करना पड़ रहा है.
Hello, welcome to Where We Talk About Films, a podcast where we talk about films. My name is Vidar Joshi, I'm your host, and today's episode is with Achal Mishra and his journey of making his first feature film. We sit, we talk, we explore films, and yeah, of course, we face some internet issues. In fact, a lot of issues. Can you hear me? Oh yeah, okay, it's back. So yeah, let's go. I think a film, it's a language in itself. That's something the film should realize. And this quote by our today's guest has been stuck in my head ever since I read it in one of his interviews. His debut film Gamagar truly represented what he said. It stayed and communicated in its own language far beyond rules and regulations. The film was premiered in Mami last year, and now it's available on Mubi if you haven't seen it yet. The storytelling, the narrative, the visuals, the overall craft of the film has left me speechless. And today we have a chance to have a conversation with the writer, director, editor, and the producer of the film, Achal Mishra. Hi, thank you so much for joining. How have
Thank
you
you for
been?
having me. I've been good. How are you?
I'm good. What's going on in this lockdown period?
uh I'm just watching a lot of films and
Mm-hmm.
reading and trying to write.
Okay. So let's
Yeah.
start with Gamagar. You have
Yeah.
mentioned that you wanted to make a film about your house, and because that house was going under reconstruction, you had to make it very nice, very quickly. Sorry, very quickly you had to start. So this was your first film. Like this was, I guess, the biggest project you have ever worked on as a
Yeah.
filmmaker. What was your struggle as a filmmaker, both externally and internally?
Uh, I mean, when we were starting out, I obviously had the doubts ki, maybe I'm doing it too early.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not ready yet to take on a
Mm-hmm.
feature film yet. And I had never really worked with, a proper team or, whatever little budget we had. I had never worked with a budget even. And, all these cameras and sound system, nothing at all. So, uh, actually, I mean, a lot of things happened after our DOP came on board,
Okay.
Anand Bansal.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't come from a film school, and Anand comes from a film school. So, he brought a certain sort of professionalism with him,
Mm-hmm.
to the project. And that's when I realized, this is becoming a big project. And then I got uh, even less confident in that way. Ki, yaar, nahi ho payega shayad.
Okay.
Uh, but we somehow we went through pre-production, and
Mm-hmm.
the main challenges actually came when the production started,
Mm-hmm.
and this is June 2018,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and a lot the shoot just started very, like we had to shoot in June. We
Okay.
couldn't delay it, otherwise we would have to shoot this thing in June 2019,
Yeah.
because I had to shoot the summer, and I wanted to shoot it, in a linear manner, to shoot the first part first. And so we had to do it then, otherwise we would have to wait a whole year,
Yeah. Yeah.
to shoot the film from
Uh-huh.
the beginning again. So I think as I had started writing the script around January.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like January, February, March I wrote. Then March, April, May we did the pre,
Mm-hmm.
in which Anand was here, and we did our storyboarding and
Mm-hmm.
production design and everything. And June we started shooting without any rehearsals with the actors, and nothing at all.
Mm-hmm.
So and all of them were non-actors.
Yeah.
So when we started shooting, now a lot of things weren't working at all, because they were all non-actors, and there was this huge setup, and they were very conscious, and so a lot of things weren't working out at all, which were there on the paper.
Okay.
So that that was happening, and then suddenly from the third day, I think it started raining. It started raining like anything, and rain was there in our script, but it was only for like 5 minutes, थोड़े देर के लिए
Yeah.
था. But the way it rained, it it used to be like कि वो जमीन भी गीली हो जाती थी, फिर सब कुछ गीला है. Now you have to wait for the sun to come, and not just that, for the sun to dry the grass and everything, because we wanted that complete summer wala na, matlab we were relying a lot on light, especially the sunlight. Because I mean, we were trying not to use a lot of lights in the day. I mean, we didn't even have those powerful lights for the daytime. Those were mostly for night and evening shots. बारिश हो गई और 2-3 दिन वो चलता रहा, and then it was like कि uh, all my crew members, they were like कि actually either we have to make this into a short film or we abandon this. So this went on for like 3-4 days, because it kept on raining, and then next day again we come back on set with some hope, but then again it started raining. So for me it was like यार हाँ बहुत जल्दी feature film अभी बनानी नहीं थी, अभी तो मैं 21 साल का हूँ. So शायद छोड़ देता हूँ, and then I'll come back to it when or maybe a year later or something, when I'm also more, because I also felt कि यार मेरे से actors के साथ भी काम नहीं हो रहा है.
While shooting?
जो non actors हैं, ठीक है. So मैं उनके साथ भी काम नहीं कर पा रहा, जो चाह रहा हूँ मैं वो भी, that's also not happening. उसके अलावा फिर ये जो मतलब बारिश है वो है, and when all this is happening, you have doubts about other things. You start having doubts about other things as well, like कि शायद स्क्रिप्ट भी अच्छी नहीं लिखी है, ठीक है, एक साल बाद शायद बेटर लिख लूंगा, ठीक है. So this was like हर रात में इसी डिप्रेसिंग नोट पे खत्म होता था. But next morning we would again wake up and we would think कि मतलब हाँ कुछ कर लेते हैं, जाके ट्राई करते हैं, and again it would rain. So फिर वो डिप्रेसिंग वो दिन का मतलब वो रात तक अपने हाई पॉइंट पे पहुंच जाता था. Then again, so after I think 4th or 5th day, sun आया, and we somehow we pulled off say 80% of the scheduled shoot. And even then it felt like कि यार ये schedule ही इतना बेकार गया है, will people come back for the next one, because we had to rely on that to shoot it in across a year in different seasons. So I was not even sure ki, if people will come back or not, but thankfully we planned it in October, and we got everyone back. And I remember October mein it was a summer thing, no, first one, 1998. And it had mangoes. फिर अक्टूबर में मैंगोज नहीं मिलते, तो मेरे को दिल्ली से बिग बाजार से आम लाने पड़े थे, just for one shot, because वो बिग बाजार में ऑफ सीजन रहते हैं ना.
Okay. So at what point did you gain the confidence कि नई स्क्रिप्ट अच्छी है, मैं अच्छा काम कर रहा हूँ, and it's happening what I want? It's after the 4th or 5th day, or like the second schedule was much better and the third one was the thing what you wanted?
कोई ऐसा पॉइंट था नहीं, बट छोटे छोटे बहुत सारे पॉइंट्स थे. एक तो हम लोग हर दिन शूट करने के बाद ना शॉर्ट्स देख के बहुत खुश होते थे. We were like कि हाँ यार सुंदर तो शूट कर रहे हैं हम, if nothing else at least we are shooting it well. This we knew.
So true.
Yeah. So Anand would come back every day and he would start doing a rough grade after every, like वो थका भी होता था ना, वो रात को 11 बजे 12 बजे बैठ के वो ग्रेड करता था थोड़ा बहुत, फिर अगले दिन सब लोग देखते थे सेट पे. So apart from this, there were a few moments, a few scenes which just happened so beautifully कि लग रहा था हाँ कुछ हो रहा है. And those were the scenes which also made me realize how I have to work with this film sort of going ahead from here. Because these were the scenes where I was not in control completely, and I wanted that to happen more. So the scenes which I'm talking about is say there's a scene in the first part at night where all these ladies are sitting in the corridor, the dadi and the chachis, and they're talking. So that scene, the only scripted dialogue in that scene is the one in the end, the last one.
Okay.
which Dadi says ki that all her wishes are now fulfilled. She just wanted ki the Dadaji would have seen the grandsons. ठीक है, ये स्क्रिप्ट था. उससे पहले जो भी था ना वो सारा वहीं पे इम्प्रोवाइज भी नहीं बोलेंगे, मतलब वो हुआ वहां पे.
Okay.
And it was because वो पिछले जो 4-5 दिन थे when we were not shooting, these हमारा छोटा सा set, it's just that village house, there's no vanity van, nothing at all, no. So all these ladies, उनको हम एक रूम में बिठा देते, and it's June, so there's just like one cooler, so उनको दे दिया हमने. हम लोग तो बाहर इधर उधर घूम रहे हैं, अपना काम कर रहे हैं. So they're all sit, and so they were already bonding there, throughout the day. Like when I would go home after the shoot at night and I would open Facebook, उनका एक selfie होता था साथ में. So they were already, they would be chattering, laughing and all that. So I thought, I want to make use of this in front of the screen as well, in front of the camera as well. This has to translate in some way, how they are, joking and talking and all that. So उसमें से जिनसे मेरे को scene में सबसे ज़्यादा, I mean, जिनसे बुलवाना था मेरे को, I made her, sit, with her back to the camera, like उनको पता भी नहीं कैमरा कहाँ है ना. She is sitting और कैमरा उनके 20 फीट पीछे है, और माइक्स भी हमने थोड़े छुपाए हुए हैं, और कैमरा क्योंकि इतना दूर है तो सेटअप दूर है, लोग भी दूर हैं, बस बूम माइक भी वो भी लंबे वाले, मतलब बूम से हमने डाला हुआ है. So we wanted our interference, to be as less as possible. And then, the dialogues which came out, we did like, 3-4 different variations of, I just asked her to, just tease grandmother or, the other people in some way, kuch mazak kariye aap. That's all I said. And then she did like 3-4 different variations, so the joke which worked for me best was the one which ended up in the film, and it was just so beautiful. That's when I sort of realized, there's so much I don't know about, about these people, jinke bare mein film bana raha hu. That joke, that way of joking was very vernacular in that way, which I, as an outsider, almost an outsider, couldn't have written. So when that happened, I was like, हाँ, ये ऐसा होता रहे तो मतलब बहुत अच्छा है. And then the other moment was, which was my sort of favorite moment was, so before even shooting started, when I was writing the film, and even before writing, मतलब क्योंकि मेरा ही घर है तो मेरे को पता था कि उसमें ना एक रूम में there's a nest of a bird, And when I was, writing and we were in pre-production, I used to think, what if we get this bird somehow in our film, in some way, I had no idea how, but in some manner, because, whenever the house was empty, it used to come, and hop around and then enter the room, and वो कोने में इसका nest होता था, वहाँ चली जाती थी. So, but जब भी घर पे बहुत लोग होते थे, it wouldn't come out, or it wouldn't enter its nest. जब वो खाली रहता था, then only. So we had shot for 9 days, ठीक है, और वो 10वां दिन था, और उस दिन कुछ ज्यादा shots नहीं थे हमारे, बस मतलब we had no actors that day. We only had, to take these empty shots of थोड़ी बारिश, थोड़ा chair खाली, or all that. So we had to take that shot of the corridor. We placed the camera there, and we weren't even ready, because we had to remove a couple of props, because this is a scene when everyone in the family has left already. तो हमें वो पर्दा हटाना था एक, remove a curtain and एक और चीज थी. But just as soon as we place the camera, sound भी नहीं था. I saw that there's this bird, and we just started recording, and it made this complete movement. It came from here and there, and then it entered the room. That day I was very pleased with what we've shot, and and then it just fit into the narrative also very well. अगर वो पहले आती लोगों के बीच में, तब शायद उतना मतलब नहीं बनता उसका. But that scene happened when everyone has left and the house is empty. So
okay. One thing I saw in the film is your sensitivity as an artist. Now, you don't come from a film background. Your parents are doctors, right? And your grandfather was into arts, but you're distant with the art field. So I just want to ask you, when did you develop this sensitivity as an artist? Because to be very honest, the film is about a house. Spoiler alert: the house getting deconstructed, like getting destroyed and getting rebuilt, and it's a good event in a middle class family that acha bada ghar ban raha hai. But your approach is very sensitive towards the house itself. So when did you develop this sensitivity as an artist in you?
I mean, I think it's just again, no one point, I can pinpoint in that way. But it's actually it happened after I mean, my sort of exposure to the kind of cinema which I love now. I mean, and that really happened in London when I was in London. I went there for college, but I dropped out after just 1 year. But during that 1 year, I was able to watch a lot of films which I might not have been able to watch while I was here. A lot of films in theater and a lot of DVDs and books which I had access to. There's BFI, the British Film Institute.
Yeah.
So I was living, like right 100 feet away from their main center. So there was a library. They had screenings. They have their own festival, and they have a bookshop and DVD shop, and with all the DVDs arranged by countries and all. So I could just walk in and like I had no idea what this film is, but I would just browse through and buy a DVD, and later on it ended up being one of my favorite films. I mean, I think that's how I ended up discovering 2 or 3 of my favorite filmmakers now. Hirokazu Koreeda from Japan and Hu Shaoshan from Taiwan. So I think that is that's where it certainly developed that sort of sensibility. Apart from that, I think there's Amit Chaudhary, who when I started reading his books, there was certainly a change because after that, everything else which was like complete fiction seemed very constructed to me. कि ये इसने मतलब ऐसे सोच के लिखा है, that sort of a thing, because there was such naturalism, such realism here, in Amit Chaudhary's writing. I was very attracted to it, and apart from it, this whole thing about not having any drama as such, any event as such, that was there in all his books. So yeah, I mean, these are the
lack of event. That's something which appealed to you. Talking about Gamagar, there is I guess the film it's not plot driven for sure. It's almost anti-plot. So what was your writing process of writing a film? Like there's there is no big event happening, but still the film is saying so much. What was your actual writing process while you were in Mumbai writing the film?
I mean, it was very, I don't know. I mean, so first part, so initially I thought of the 3 structures, and I knew ki first part kaisa hoga, second kaisa hoga, third kaisa hoga.
Okay.
Where it's gonna go. I didn't know what the particulars of the story would be, but this is a very general, a macro look of the film. 1998 summer, 2010 autumn, and 2019 winter, and I knew कि इसमें सब कुछ ठीक रहेगा घर में, इसमें थोड़ी चीजें खराब हो जाएंगी और उसमें तो घर टूट जाएगा. Apart from this, I mean, I was aware of the aspect ratio, but that's not part of the writing. But so when I started writing, I only wrote the first part.
Okay.
And which in a way, it helped also. I'll come to it. But so in January, I started writing, and I started writing it as it was almost like a stream of memory sort of a thing.
Okay.
Where I sat down and I sort of recalled what a day back then would be. And it just I wrote it in like one sitting, and that was like my first draft. And then I made changes to sort of adjust the rhythm, and I lifted scenes from here to there, and did a few more changes. But that was it. Apart from it, I think there was a friend of mine who was there with me, who's the one who actually I mean, he was there when we were bouncing off ideas, and this film was literally born in that way. But I mean, he has a more traditional approach to writing. So I wrote the first draft, and then he was supposed to write the second draft, which he did. But what he wanted was to establish all the relationships between people, and have some sort of a narrative arc through the film, which I was almost rebelling against at that time.
Okay.
कि ये तो मुझे करना ही नहीं है, I wanted to be completely experimental in that way कि मतलब वो चाहिए ही नहीं मेरे को, उसके बिना फिल्म बनानी है, मतलब I don't even want to establish the relationship, in a very literal way, I mean, at least. ठीक है, मतलब मेरे फिल्म में अभी भी relationships दिख रही हैं, but I'm not spelling them out. कि कोई किसको बुआ बोल रहा है या चाची बोल रहा है, but just to for the audience sake. ठीक है, वो छोटी छोटे gestures से दिख जा रहा है, so I wanted that. So I think थर्ड ड्राफ्ट से मैंने ही अकेले लिखना चालू किया. There was also a very slight cultural gap because the film is set in Mithila, and it deals with a particular household, and my friend comes from Patna. I mean, Bihari hai, but it becomes a big difference. I still realize it felt like a lot of things we were imposing on these non-actors, but that, I mean, I was also free in that way because I hadn't written the second part and third part.
Okay.
So I could make changes accordingly to that, not changes, but I could write accordingly, according to these non-actors.
Yeah.
So I knew, मतलब एक तो कि कौन कितनी acting कर सकता है, and not कौन कितनी acting कर सकता है, but कौन कितना comfortable है कैमरा के साथ, So I could, जो नहीं, जिनसे बिल्कुल नहीं हो पा रहा उनको मैं कम दे दूंगा, थोड़े कम scenes दूंगा, and we had to work around that,
Yeah.
There was no, even narrative driving it, I mean, there was, no narrative driving it as such, It was as simple as कि घर में 12 साल बीत जाएंगे, उसके बाद कैसे क्या हो, where are things going now?
Yeah.
So I could make, changes as I wished, ठीक है, कि उस 12 साल में क्या क्या हुआ है, so I wrote the second part accordingly, कि मतलब
Okay.
according to the non-actors I had, and leaving a lot of space for improvisation, because I knew where these people can bring their own to the script, so for those scenes sometimes I only put certain checkpoints कि अब 2 actors हैं, मैंने उनको बोला कि पहला आपका check point ये है, आपको इसके बारे में बात करनी है, then you go from there to here, and then you end at this point.
Okay.
And उसके बीच में they would improvise on their own.
Okay.
Apart from that, I remember there's one scene which was inserted into the script like 1 week before the shoot, so I hadn't written it at all, which was inserted because so basically what was happening is we were shooting the second part just after Chhat Puja, which the second part is set during Chhat Puja. So, and we couldn't shoot during the actual Chhat Puja because सब जितने actors लोग हैं सबका अपना भी Chhat Puja होता है यहाँ पे.
Okay.
So, and हमारे घर पे भी Chhat Puja, मेरी भी Chhat Puja चल रही होगी घर वालों की, original drama घर. So, उसके एक हफ्ते बाद हम लोग shoot करने वाले थे. And then during that actual original Chhat Puja, I was just, I became more observant of things because I knew कि एक हफ्ते बाद shoot करना है इसी चीज को, I have to fictionalize this very thing, 1 week later. So there was this, my father was sitting with my uncle and cousin and a neighbor in the, the veranda as such, जो दलान कहते हैं हमारे वहाँ पे बाहर जो है. और वहाँ पे जो बातचीत थी, it was very starting, and it was very cheerful and happy and all that. And suddenly my father, he brought up someone's, some medical problem or some disease. And then the whole, atmosphere of that space, completely changed. Everyone just went, silent and, just sitting there quiet for like 5 minutes. Yeah. So I wanted, something like this. I mean, it wasn't a scene which is, a part of, which is sort of moving the narrative forward. I didn't want scenes to, just to move the narrative forward, but I just, want to make that atmosphere, So I just told them, and because it was, it was our third schedule. First schedule was the June one, then the patchwork, and this third schedule. So the actors were, very comfortable with each other and with the crew. We knew each other, so well by now. So I just had to tell them कि आप हम मेरे को ये सीन चाहिए, मैंने लिखा नहीं है ये सीन, ठीक है? आप लोग तीनों मतलब अगर आप आपस में प्रिपेयर कर सकते हैं कुछ, ठीक है? तो देखिए मतलब हमें बात को यहाँ से मतलब ऐसे चालू कर सकते हैं। मतलब वो they all of it, you know, it was improvised by themselves.
Oh, nice.
And you know, it was, I mean, it still, I mean, maybe I make it sound easy, but the thing is, it still takes a lot of, you know, retakes in the process.
Yeah.
Because you know, you do a first take and then उसमें कुछ नया, because it's, you know, it's improvisation.
Yeah.
You know, so first take में कुछ नहीं आ रहा, second में कुछ नया आ जा रहा है, and then you're telling the actors कि अच्छा आप इसको third take में रखो, but maybe third take में वो लेके ज्यादा conscious हो गए हैं, ठीक है, तो वो उस पे ज्यादा ध्यान दे रहे हैं, बाकी चीजें. So you know, it takes like, you know, 10, 12 takes to, you know, get it right, to get it, you know, maybe as natural as possible. Because उसमें improvisation में कुछ चीज आ जा रही थी, which was like I was very, you know, pleased with those छोटे-छोटे, very, you know, small nuances. So you know, it almost took like, you know, I think 12, 15 takes for that shot.
Again, you
But
edited the film. Sorry, continue.
Yeah. And the last part, तो writing wasn't, I mean, there wasn't the writing as such. Last part तो मतलब ऐसे मेरे छोटे से डायरी में ना इतने नोट्स थे. मैंने थोड़ा सा अलग से बस लिखा था अभिनव के लिए, who plays Guddu.
Yeah.
So just for him to work as an actor, to prepare himself, I wrote his sequence alag se. But you know, because it was such a quiet, I mean, silent segment for us, we concentrated more on the storyboarding than the script, you know.
Okay.
मतलब मेरे स्क्रिप्ट में तो बस ऐसा था कि landscapes in mist, and then house engulfed in fog, and Nathuni the caretaker wakes up, and you know, I mean, just like one-liners, you know, for like this much.
Okay.
You say कुछ था नहीं ऐसा, and a lot of things we had to do there, you know, like that, you know, the goats coming in, and all that. तो ज़्यादा लिखा नहीं था मैंने. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that was it.
But this like approach is so unique, and that too for the first film. Do you think you're gonna continue with this approach in your next film or all the other films? Because it sounds fun, but it is very difficult to achieve something like this with the amount of
and very risky also, no?
Very risky.
Very risky also कि मतलब पता नहीं है कि आगे, because you know, I mean, Jamunkar, at least in the beginning, for me, it wasn't, you know, a very big project. I mean, I had never realized it's gonna be such a big project.
Yeah.
You know, मुझे तो ये भी नहीं पता था कि फिल्म आ में जाएगी यार. मतलब हमने जिस तरह से शुरू किया था, it was a completely almost a homegrown effort, like, you know, बस ऐसे ही कुछ लोग मिल गए, मतलब I mean, जब से आनंद आया, फिर थोड़ा और फिल्म और सीरियस हो गया, थोड़े और पैसे भी खर्च होने लगे, you know. So maybe, you know, I know it works both ways कि मतलब sometimes I say कि मतलब शायद मैं बाद में बनाता तो और बेटर तैयार होके बना पाता मैं, ठीक है, चीजें और अच्छी कर पाता जो मैंने नहीं की, but you know, it's also कि maybe शायद ये फिल्म ऐसी फिल्म नहीं बना पाता मैं, you know. It's like that.
Yeah, exactly. And
so अभी भी काफी चीजें हैं जो मैं सोचता हूँ कि मतलब even if say I was better prepared, you know, मैं शायद और better कर पाता, but I don't know, मतलब
it would be something else, not this. And you love this. We all loved this. Again, coming to the process, your process was again unique, very unique. The approach, the narrative, non-actors, the very regional language. How difficult was it to finance a film? Like, were you planning to pitch it to other people, or starting से यही था कि नहीं यार मैं खुद ही प्रोड्यूस करूंगा?
Like I said, no, कि वो मतलब घर का ही मतलब सब कुछ था ऐसे कि कभी सोचे नहीं था कि बजट भी इतना जाएगा, you know. Because you know, I was used to working on my own before this. Whatever short film I had done it, you know, just like me, the camera, sound recording, सब कुछ खुद से ही किया मैं, sorry. So when it started, I thought कि अच्छा हाँ थोड़े पैसे खर्च करेंगे, but you know, I mean, because I was doing it in my hometown, in my village, you know, with all the local people, जिनको मतलब उनमें से बहुतों को पैसे भी नहीं देने थे, मतलब because some were relatives and you know, people I've known all these years. But you know, once you know, Anand came on board, and I mean, I also realized then कि you know, कुछ चीजें हैं जो करनी पड़ती हैं अगर फिल्म को थोड़ा सा मतलब what you thinking of वैसा चाहिए तो, especially visually, because you know, first part we wanted it to be very well lit in that way. ऊपर से फिर टीम का आना जाना, थैंकफुली मतलब हमारे काफी कॉस्ट बचे बिकॉज यू नो अ फ्रेंड ऑफ माइन हैड रिसेंटली बॉट Canon C200 and that's
okay.
the camera we were thinking of shooting on.
हाँ.
So you know he came here and he gave us his camera. uh, उसके अलावा we had to rent lights, so you know uh, I mean my parents were there for financing the film, you know.
Okay.
uh, and it just you know went on. मतलब ऐसा हो गया था कि जितना हमने मतलब टोटल सोचा था ना, मैंने एटलीस्ट टोटल
हाँ.
फिल्म का बजट सोचा था,
हाँ.
वो हमने फर्स्ट शेड्यूल में ही खर्चे कर दिए.
Oh.
ठीक है, या बट थैंकफुली कि मतलब पेरेंट्स वर यू नो सपोर्टिव, मतलब सपोर्टिव इनफ यू नो to have me you know spend जितना था मतलब उतना और. And you know for me actually it was like कि it was मतलब मैं कॉलेज ड्रॉप आउट कर लिया था और कॉलेज में जितने पैसे लग रहे थे मतलब 1 साल का जो फीस था उसमें मैं फिल्म बना रहा हूँ. That was like
Okay.
my justification for myself. But you know मतलब जब हम लोग लगा भी रहे थे ना, तो मतलब for me ड्रामा घर was like my film school. मतलब जो वो फिल्म बनाने के बाकी चीजें जो होती हैं वो मतलब मैंने साउंड के साथ और ये सब के साथ of you know working with the team and that
Yeah.
professionalism वो सब मतलब ड्रामा घर पे ही सीखा मैंने. एंड जब बना रहे थे तब तो मतलब कुछ सोचा भी नहीं था कि मतलब पैसे वापस कैसे मिलेंगे या फिर मतलब वापस कमाने भी हैं कि नहीं, मतलब यू नो. सो उसके बाद जो भी थोड़े बहुत कहीं से भी आ रहे हैं, आते हैं, आएंगे, तो दैट इज यू नो इट्स नाइस ओनली. आई मीन इट्स नॉट लाइक कि मतलब फुल रिकवर करना है, बट it was like how you spend you know when you go to a film school and you know you put money there, and it's not like film school का तुम्हें return चाहिए होता है तुरंत, or even any school you know as such.
Okay. And
So it was like that.
again, your parents were like ready to finance the film, but it was not like you had the huge budgets, right? You still had minimal resources and a very small crew. I saw in your making, it was like one of the person says that it's just 6 or 7 people in the crew, and
Yeah.
you had very minimal resources, but still the film looks, it doesn't feel like that. So how did you plan it out, or what was the process on set to like do everything you want with the minimal amount of resources?
I mean, see, I mean, अब अगर फ्रेम देखें तो I mean, what are the things which you know make the frame? It's I think एक तो production design है. So production design was I mean हमने टाइम लिया उस पे. First our production designer Avni, she joined us from the 2010 bit.
Okay.
Because she was still studying in London when we started the film. I think October में उसका course खत्म हुआ था, everything was done. She came to India on 15th and on 17th she was in Darbhanga to you know start working here. Nice. It was like her first project back home. तो फर्स्ट पार्ट के लिए मतलब मैंने और आनंद ने खुद हमने किया था.
Okay.
So it's like कि हमने ना जब जून में शूट करना है तो मार्च में ही कुछ प्लांट्स लगा दिए, you know, to so that they उनको टाइम मिले, they grow and you know अच्छे से वो स्पेस ले लें. I mean, I didn't want anything to look artificial in that way, you know. Apart from that, I mean, it's a small town, Darbhanga, और वो गांव वैसा का वैसा ही है इतने साल से. So getting those props was you know wasn't really a task. It was very easy. A lot of things were very easily available. Even say the ambassador or the scooter we used, or chairs and the costume we got it. You know, हमने कपड़े खरीद के सिलवाए थे काफी because we wanted them to look a certain way, and a lot of it came from the old pictures we were looking at. Apart from that, you know, there's a certain control in the image, in the way we sort of you know we visualize things, and I think that control is something which gives it that you know what people call a well produced sort of look, you know, कि कम पैसे में नहीं बनाई है फिल्म इन्होंने मतलब. but मतलब वो फर्स्ट पार्ट में मतलब एक तो we used a lot of lighting, you know, especially for the night scenes. Okay. Because you know in a way we were treating it I mean if you come to Bihar in 1998 you won't see this much light. मतलब एक तो वोल्टेज बहुत कम होता था और दूसरा मतलब इतनी लाइट होती नहीं थी गाँव घर में, you know. But for me, I was treating it as a, memory, and memory in your mind is, very
Clear,
nice
yeah.
and all.
Yeah.
So first part का मेरा treatment वही था कि हमें कुछ भी ना मतलब खराब नहीं दिखाना है उसमें. Everything is, nice and jolly in that way. So especially for the night scenes, I wanted that, warm yellow, वो light bulb की light, but वो भी अच्छे से ना मतलब भरी हुई.
Okay.
So that we did, and बाकी मतलब वो I think framing में ही है काफी कुछ ना कि मतलब the way we composed and the way we framed and जो blocking थी scenes की, I think a lot of that helped in getting a sort of a visual language.
Coming to the visual language, the film is like film has one of the strongest visual language I've seen in an Indian film. And we have to talk about the cinematography. You come from a photography background. You're a photographer. How influential was that on the film you made? And what was the process of you collaborating with the cinematographer and creating these beautiful visuals? Like the image where the hand is reaching out to the mango is something I won't be able to forget because that's so relatable and so beautiful. So what was the process of creating the visual language? Let's you have talked about it, but elaborate a little bit more.